Welcome back to another explainer. Today, we're doing a deep dive into IREDA's Q1 numbers. Now, if you've been tracking the markets lately, you've absolutely seen the flashy headlines. The market is thrilled. But you know us. Our goal is to look right past the standard PR jargon and figure out what is actually going on behind the scenes. So we're going to unpack that massive headline growth, and more importantly, expose the hidden risks that might just be flying under the radar. Okay, let's dive right into this. Here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with Q1 revenue and profit, move into income and expense trends, uncover the bad loan surprise, analyze asset quality, and finally, give our final verdict. Starting right off with Section 1, Q1 revenue and profit, and those big wins. At first glance, man, these numbers look incredibly strong. Honestly, if you were just skimming the surface of their quarterly report, you'd think it was a flawless quarter. I mean, we're looking at a massive 36% jump in profit year over year. To put that into perspective, last year in the same quarter, they reported a solid 246 crore. But this quarter, they bumped out all the way up to 338 crore. That is a fantastic growth metric for literally any company, showing some real, tangible acceleration right at the bottom line. And it's not just the profit that's soaring either. The top line, the revenue, is tracking beautifully, showing about a 15% growth year over year. So revenues are expanding and profits are actually accelerating even faster than that revenue. That tells us their core operations are highly efficient and basically firing on all cylinders. So far, so good, right? Looks like an absolute home run. Let's move to Section 2, income and expense trends, and see how this builds. But as we know, the top-level numbers never tell the whole story. We really need to look a little deeper into how they actually generated that revenue and, more importantly, what they had to spend to get it. For a financing company, net interest income, or NII, is arguably the most vital metric. Last year, their NII was 690 crore. This current quarter, it's 857 crore. So year over year, that's a really solid win. But if you look at the previous quarter, just the one immediately prior to this, their NII was actually 898 crore, meaning quarter over quarter, the net interest income actually dropped slightly. So should we be panicking about this sequential drop? Well, the short answer is no, not necessarily. The crucial thing to remember here is that when you're evaluating a renewable finance company like IREDA, you really can't judge them on a strict quarter-over-quarter basis. The financing cycles in the renewable sector are just lumpy. Disbursements and large project completions don't perfectly line up with standard calendar quarters. Because of that, year-over-year growth is a much more reliable metric of success. And year-over-year, they're doing just fine on the income side. But let's flip to the other side of the ledger for a second, the expenses. Last year, total expenses were 1,655 crore. But this current quarter, they've climbed significantly, hitting 1,836 crore. When you dig into it, that expense figure feels just a little bit heavy, kind of high relative to the revenue generated, and the primary reason for these elevated expenses leads us directly into our next and frankly most critical topic of this explainer. Which brings us to Section 3, the bad loan surprise, taking a close look at impairments. This is where things take a slight turn, and we need to uncover some slightly uncomfortable details buried deep inside those elevated expenses. Let me pose this directly to you. Why exactly did expenses and financial losses rise so much this quarter? Think about it. The company is making great revenue, profits are technically way up, so what's eating into the margins and pushing those costs so high? Well, to answer that, we have to look at the impairment on financial instruments. As you likely know, in the context of a lending company like IREDA, an impairment is simply a sudden reduction in the value of an asset. Essentially, we're talking about bad loans or loan defaults. It's money they lent out that they are now officially recognizing they probably won't be getting back. Now, let's quickly look back at last year for some vital context. In this exact same quarter last year, IREDA had a very high impairment charge of 362 crore, but the market largely forgave them for that. Why? Because it was tied to specific well-known anomalies, mainly two distinct fraud cases, one involving a JSOL loan and another involving a BCPCL-related company. Because these were isolated fraud incidents, the market didn't view it as a systemic failure of their lending practices. It was basically written off as a one-off unfortunate hit. Now, what's really interesting about this quarter is the unexpected surprise hiding in the numbers. Impairments didn't drop. They actually climbed to 418 crore. And unlike last year, there's no neat, well-publicized external fraud excuse to pin this on. This clearly indicates that there are new, completely unexpected loan defaults happening within their portfolio right now.
Moving on to Section 4, Analyzing Asset Quality and NPAs.
With these new defaults unexpectedly popping up, we need to zoom out. We need to see how this 418 crore surprise actually impacts the big picture health of IREDA's entire loan book. When we talk about asset quality, the ultimate metric is the NPA, or non-performing asset. Just as a quick refresher, this is simply a loan where the principal or interest payment has remained overdue. It's the universal thermometer for measuring exactly how sick or healthy a loan portfolio is.
And here is where things get really fascinating. Despite that unexpected 418 crore hit from new impairments, the gross NPA actually improved year over year. Last year, inflated by those two fraud cases, the gross NPA sat at a worrisome 4.13%. But this quarter, it successfully dropped down to 3.75%. So proportionally, against the massive size of their total lending operations, the percentage of bad loans is actually shrinking.
And the net NPA, which factors in the provisions they've actively set aside to cover these bad loans, tells an even stronger story. It dropped from 2.06% last year all the way down to an incredibly impressive 1.22% currently. That is nearly cut in half. So while the new individual defaults are definitely a nuisance, the overall trajectory of their loan book's health is undeniably heading in the right direction. Plus, this improving health aligns perfectly with their core profitability metrics. Earnings per share, or EPS, grew nicely from 91 paisa last year to 1 rupee and 21 paise this year. And both their overall operating margins and net margins are steadily increasing. This runs out the asset quality picture perfectly. Despite a few sudden bumps in the road with those new impairments, the core engine of the business is highly profitable, well-cushioned, and efficiently managed.
Finally, Section 5, the final verdict. All right, we've looked at the shiny headlines, and we've done the hard work of digging into the messy footnotes. It's time to bring it all together for a balanced conclusion on IREDA's Q1 performance. On one hand, you have the undeniable headlines: strong revenue growth, fantastic profit jumps, and incredibly, NPAs that are actively dropping. By almost any standard, these are fantastic numbers. But on the exact same token, you have the blind spot: that unexpected 418 crore in new loan impairments. Frankly, those financial impairments should have been significantly lower this quarter, especially without any major fraud cases to blame it on. While the sheer volume of the company's growth is strong enough to completely absorb this hit for now, those impairments absolutely remain the vital, hidden metric you need to be watching closely going forward.
Which leaves us with the ultimate question to ponder. Will IREDA be able to rein in these unexpected loan defaults in the upcoming quarters? If they can tighten up their lending standards just a bit and bring that impairment number down, the sky really is the limit for their margins. But if those defaults keep quietly creeping up, it could definitely start eating into those beautiful profits we just talked about. We'll for sure be keeping a close eye on this in the future. I really hope this explainer helped you cut through the noise to understand what's actually going on under the hood here. Thanks so much for joining me today, and I'll catch you on the next one.